HolyCityCenter.com has been the go-to place for many Charlestonians for the latest news, events, and other happenings for 6 years now. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with Christian Senger one-on-one to talk about the blog's 6-year anniversary. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Well, it is so good to see you.
Great to see you, Quintin, as always.
Likewise. Again, thank you for all you've done over the past 5 years for Quintin's Close-Ups.
Oh, please, I've been happy to be on there and happy to share. You do a great job.
And let me talk about years. Let me go back to August 1st. Mm-hmm. You're celebrating 6 years of Holy City Center.
That's right. August 1st was the 6-year anniversary of my first post, and I couldn't believe it's flown by.
6 years tells you what about your blog?
It shows that I'm having a great time doing it, enjoying myself, meeting lots of great people, learning all about Charleston and sharing what I learn, and obviously I've gotten enough support to continue doing it, but I've always loved doing it, from no followers to, and views to, however many I may have on my best day. Like, I just love doing it and just love talking about Charleston.
You talk about Charleston. You said this on July 2nd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Facebook quote, 10 years ago today, I arrived in Charleston.
That's right.
How is Charleston different from when you came here 10 years ago to now?
Oh, geez. The blog over the last 6 years, even just in that time frame, I've noticed a lot of changes, and I kind of got lucky where I was talking about Charleston when this boom happened of a few different things. That's when it really picked up. But from 10 years ago when I moved here, development number one, as far as there's so many hotels now, apartments are springing up all over, not just downtown, Mount Pleasant. There's so many more places like that. King Street has expanded from, Lower King and Meeting and Market used to be kind of the place people would hang out at night, and it just keeps expanding up King Street. Right. So many restaurants and areas that you never would have thought they would have came to. I think those are huge. The biggest differences you see when you come back to Charleston, just the amount of businesses and buildings that pop up and change hands and maybe change brands or whatever. I think that's the biggest, most recognizable difference. But also in that 10 years, we've gone through a couple tragedies which have shaped the city. We went from Mayor Riley to Mayor Tecklenburg, which is a historic change just because of how long Mayor Riley was here. So Charleston is still the same on the base level, but there's a lot of things that you can see on the outside that have changed in those 10 years.
You talk about brand. Obviously, you and I are involved with Channel 4's For the Low Country.
That's right.
Feature. Mm-hmm. I'm on there Mondays, you're on there Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And we basically bring our popular content to Channel 4's website.
Exactly.
When you think of that, what sticks out to you?
First of all, it was an honor for ABC to reach out and ask me to do that. I've had a nice relationship. Thank you. I've had a good relationship with them prior to that, and I was happy for them to ask me to continue that relationship in another form. I think, like you, we both like our own brand and like what we're doing as like a do-it-yourself kind of thing. Right. But it's nice to be recognized by a traditional media and have them appreciate our content and want it to be next to the content of their journalists and their reporters. So it's an honor, and I so appreciate it. It's really fun to say, hey, you can see my content on ABC News 4.
Oh, that's right. Let me turn you to some developing news. Obviously, gubernatorial candidate Catherine Templeton's under headlines right now.
That's right.
She actually sent this out on Twitter just recently. It says this quote, I recently come under attack from the press and others for my comments about the Confederate flag. If it's politically incorrect to say I'm a proud daughter of the Confederacy, then call me politically incorrect. My father was named after Judge William Bradley, a Confederate soldier who fought under General Robert E. Lee and lost his arm battle at the Battle of Seven Pines. I have a son named Hampton and a dog named Dixie, but that doesn't make me a racist. It makes me from South Carolina and proud of it. It is outrageous to me that someone would have me disavow my family and about history. It later goes on to say this, the day the Confederate flag came down, Governor Healy asked all of us to express our support for the future of South Carolina and to start the healing. I was proud to do that, but I would not apologize for loving my family and my state. Our history is not always comfortable, but it made us who we are today.
There is a lot to unpack there. I know that, when she first made the comments, I saw KJ Kearney,
Right.
who you've interviewed before.
Right.
He had wrote a thing for the city paper saying we really shouldn't be surprised at what she said. Based on the people she was talking to, based on what she identifies as, what would you expect her to say in that room, basically playing to the audience. I kind of left it as that, but I hadn't heard all of that quote that, or that post that you had just mentioned, so she's really doubling down on what she's saying. I think she makes a couple of good points, and I understand where she's coming from, but I think some of it may be misguided, or she might not completely understand what she's saying. South Carolina does, and the United States has an uncomfortable history, especially in terms of slavery and what is continued to this day. From slavery, even though it was abolished, things that continue to this day that are still related to that. And we don't want to forget that, which I think would be impossible to do anyway. And we want to make sure that we understand what fully happened, how we move forward, and how we make things better. As far as her talking about her family, I understand your loyalty to family. And I think this is true for human nature. You're likely to defend your family for things they may have done wrong over, a stranger. And I get that. You're a little bit more apt to forgive someone in your family. But a lot of these folks who talk about their family's history and things, and maybe their family was good people who were fighting in the Civil War for a completely different reason than what the vast majority of people believe they were fighting for in the Civil War. I think that's hard to tell and maybe impossible for her to know. I would have a hard time defending my family members from fighting for the South in the Civil War if I had any. It's a very difficult part of history, and it's hard to know everybody's motives. It's a frustrating argument to hear people defend the Confederate flag and the general beliefs of the Confederacy as if it was something bigger than slavery. There were other aspects to it, but I think history shows that that's what it comes down to. And it's frustrating for me to hear people talk about it. And why is this a political talking point to me is beyond me at this point. It's 2017. Why are we talking about the Confederacy? And why are we trying to figure out what people's thoughts are on that? Shouldn't be something that's being defended anymore. And I get the whole recognizing history and honoring things, and I understand that, but there has to be a more appropriate way to do it than we have right now.
And obviously, it's not only Kathleen Templeton
No,
who's really
not at all.
trending on Twitter, but also President Donald Trump, that is. Obviously, he has had a tremendous shakeup in his administration. I believe we're 6 months into his presidency.
Yeah.
How would you define his administration as we sit here right now?
Chaotic, I think is the best word. No matter whether you voted for him or not, I don't think, or you think he's making progress or not, I don't think you can deny that it's been chaotic. I think that's something people on either side can agree on. And I get some people might think that's a negative thing, and I think it is negative to be so chaotic. But that, if you believe he's done some good things, and I think you can still see that things have been hectic. A lot of people have been fired. There has been a lot of leaks in the press. Again, wherever you fall on that, whether people should be doing it or not, it's unprecedented to the types of things that have been going on. I posed on Twitter one day. I was like, serious question. Have we seen this many people, resign or be fired from an administration in these first 6 or 7 months, or in 6 or 7 months in general? And most people were saying that at the beginning of the presidency, we really haven't seen anything quite like this. Maybe with Nixon and things like that, when his administration was falling apart, there may have been a period where people were resigning or quitting and things, but it seems every day there's a new headline, and some of it's vastly overblown, but I think it seems every day there's huge headline news about something that we're not used to seeing, whether it's a controversy or it's, just something that's up for debate, whether it's healthcare and things like that. It just seems every day we're bombarded with things. You have a communications director who was technically fired before his start date in Scaramucci. So to me, it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on. And I think no matter where you fall, like I said, I don't think you can call it anything besides hectic and chaotic.
Let me move from Washington, D.C. back here to Charleston. Obviously, another debate is really the Charleston County School Board. Just last Thursday, they repealed their controversial pay raise bill.
Yeah.
When you talk to people on the street, what are they telling you in your mind?
I've actually heard both sides of the story. The vast majority, and I'm guilty of this too, when you see it on its face value that they approve their own raise, it looks bad. Number one, that they're choosing to give themselves a raise. Just on the surface, just reading the headline without diving into details, the perception is bad. And for right or wrong, that's the case. And I think a lot of people, including myself, when they saw the headline, especially when you talk about some of the struggles they've had over the last couple of years, especially with finances, it just did not look good. It didn't pass the smell test. But there's been a couple people who have said, hey, look, this is a normal thing. This isn't as bad as it looks on paper, and have tried to explain, why it was okay to do it. In the end, I think, and again, perception sometimes is reality. If everybody thinks it looks bad and thinks something should be changed, even if the general public may be wrong about that, I think they did the right thing by, repealing it, coming back and changing their decision. It was the wrong time to do it, again, just based on things that were in the news. So I think they made the right choice of repealing it. But, I would be lying if I said I knew all the ins and outs of the whole thing. There may have been absolutely nothing wrong with what they did in giving themselves a raise, but again, just the timing of it and just on the face value, it doesn't look the best.
You talk about decision. Obviously, 526 is still on the table.
Yeah.
You have Charleston County now suing the State Infrastructure Transportation Bank over its, future of the 526 deal. Tell me this, and I ask a lot of politicians this over vast amount of times that I've done interviews with them for Quintin's close-ups. But in your mind, is 526 dead or alive?
I think it's alive, barely. I think it's one of those things that will always kind of be alive because I don't think the folks on either side are going to give up the fight. No matter what happens as far as funding and things like that, it may look like it's done and over with, but the people on both sides are very, very opinionated.
Right.
And they're very strong in their beliefs on what they think should happen. So no, of course there is always that chance, but I think it'll always be alive. Now, how alive is it? It's hard to actually quantify, but I think it'll always be there underneath the surface and will probably pop up again. Just with the amount of people moving to Charleston, the amount of traffic complaints you hear from people, again, whether that's just a perception or it really is really bad, is up for debate, I'm sure. And whether the expansion of 526 or whatever plans they may have in the future will fix that problem or not, I think it's always going to be there.
You talk about transportation. Let me go back to August 1st. I was doing an interview, I believe, with Angela Hanyak that evening, and we all heard the devastating news about what happened on 526, obviously. And the headline from abcnews4.com read this: Highway Patrol notified DOT about Don Hope Bridge tarp issues 3 days before it fell.
Yeah.
Where were you when you got the news? And when you got the news, what did you tell yourself?
Well, the first news about the tarp falling down, I was actually at work and had heard that I was home.
Okay.
And I was on my way to go somewhere. And I knew that the rain had picked up and things weren't going very well. I left my house just as I heard there was an accident nearby. So already traffic was not very good. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing about a tarp falling off the bridge or onto the bridge, and a couple cars are trapped.
Right.
Thankfully no one was hurt, which is the most important thing.
Right.
But I was surprised to hear it because I didn't really know that work was being done on the bridge.
So they built that back in 1991, I believe.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, and I had no idea that they were doing anything to it. So I'm like, wait, there's a tarp on there? Why? And, once I knew everybody, no one was injured, it was surprising in that I didn't know that there was a tarp up there and work was being done. But when it comes to Charleston traffic and kind of weird things happening, I wasn't surprised by that.
Right.
We've had the Ravenel Bridge closed for some strange things. So on that initial thing, again, just happy people were okay, a little surprised by it. But when the report came out that, because people were responding to me like, I'm not surprised the tarp fell. It did not look very secure up there when I drove by a few days earlier. So when I heard that it was being looked into, I wasn't surprised by that because I was getting feedback from people. And then when the first report said that, people were warned, people were calling about this tarp,
Right.
That's when I thought to myself that, someone could end up being in, pretty big trouble for this, because if you're being warned that something doesn't look safe and secure, and, I don't know the chain of command and how things occurred from complaint to, getting down the line, but regardless, that's a few days beforehand. You would think it would have been looked into and things. And, it doesn't bode well for anybody who is involved in that. I think today or yesterday came out saying that, even though people had, called that maybe what they were concerned about wouldn't have changed what happened that day. So it's going to be one of those things, I think, where you're going to have people accusing one side and the other side saying, no, we couldn't have prevented it. It's a story that I don't think is going to go away, quickly. It's going to be hanging around, I think. We'll see if people sue over it maybe, because damage to their cars. I know there's already a way that people can submit claims and things, but who knows if that'll be enough for some people. So as surprising and weird as it was, like I said, when it comes to Charleston traffic, I don't put anything out of the realm of possibility.
Let me turn to some good news. And this is the headline from PulseandCorey.com. Hanahan teen finishes coast-to-coast ride, having raised more than $500,000. Where are you emotionally when you hear this?
And that's amazing, and it's fantastic. Anything involving charity and raising money is a great story anyway. But when it's a child, it's even more impressive, because kids, and myself included, when I was young, you get wrapped up in kid stuff.
Right.
You're a kid, you're growing up, you're enjoying toys and video games or shopping or whatever it may be.
Right.
And for him to put his mind to it, to not just raise money, but in such a grand fashion, to have such a huge goal in mind, and to do something physically demanding by traveling across the country on a bike is just amazing, and it makes me feel good inside. And it's a great organization too, Water Missions. They're based here in North Charleston, and they they do the Walk for Water every year, and I participated this year, and thanks to some of my followers and stuff, was able to raise over $1,000 with their help to go to the charity, which pales in comparison to what he did. But I was still proud to be a part of it, and they do great work as they provide water systems to countries that don't have clean water or don't have access to water. I won't go into all the details, but you should definitely, everybody watching should go check out that organization. They do a great job. I was able to learn a lot about it in the process. So that story, that was a long way of saying, because I was involved with it, that story makes me feel even better and happy inside, because I know about the organization and know a few people who work there and know a little bit more of the background of what they do. So it's incredible that anyone raises that amount of money, but I think it's even more special that someone of that person's age. It's great. Congratulations to him.
You talk about incredible. Let's talk about the solar eclipse.
Yes, I know. It's exciting, right?
Yeah, I'll be working that day.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing?
I made sure I was off that day. I haven't set plans yet, but I will be hopefully figuring that out soon. I'm putting together a post of all solar eclipse events in Charleston, so everybody watching, be sure to look for that. If you haven't chosen yet, you better hurry up, and I'm including myself in there because I'm procrastinating. There's supposedly like 1 million people coming to Charleston just for this event, and although there are tons of businesses that are doing events surrounding the eclipse, they're going to be selling out. They're going to be packed. So I'm not too sure yet, but just like everyone else, it's time to probably finalize that, because we've got a couple weeks away.
3 weeks, yeah.
Gonna be really cool. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that before. We're right in the path of the eclipse, so we should have an amazing view. Just hoping that the weather is good. And I don't think you can go wrong with wherever you decide to go, whether it's a big, huge event or it's just, I know a few restaurants are just, hey, come eat. We have a patio, you can enjoy it then. Just make sure you get your glasses, otherwise you're not going to be able to enjoy it.
I just got mine earlier this week.
That's right. You got to have them, otherwise you're not going to be able to enjoy it like everybody else is. But it's exciting. It should be a really cool day. And the buzz is starting to pick up in town. I think that day is going to be really special. Yeah,
I heard that some split spots around town, Ondaw.
Yeah, Ondaw should be good because they have the big space, of course, to see it. I know the River Dogs actually have a game that day during the eclipse. So
Interesting.
I'm interested to see if they're going to pause the game for a little while or what's going to happen. But I mean, that's pretty cool. Go check out baseball in the afternoon and then see a total solar eclipse. And then again, I mean, I could talk forever about places that are doing events. They just more and more keep popping up every day.
You talk about events, obviously today's Thursday,
Yep.
tomorrow's Friday. So what's going on the weekend?
Oh, geez. There's always something going on in Charleston. I haven't finalized the weekend event list. You know, there's always ongoing things. But, you know, I've had family in town, so I haven't been focusing too much on what I'm going to be doing.
Right.
But, you know, it's Charleston, so you know there's going to be a lot of the theaters in town are starting up new seasons and new productions. It's the first of the month. The popular, First Fridays, the art walks on the French Quarter will be going on. You know, there's always concerts and food events and things like that. I wish I could give you some specifics, but I don't focus on the weekend until I have to because there's just so much going on in Charleston. But I'll have the weekend event post going up on Friday as always, so people will know what's going on.
And on ABC News 4 right here.
That's right.
Well, Christian Senger, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Quintin. A pleasure as always.
Thank you. Yes, sir.